Good day to each and everyone. I am Jamaira Usman presenting the chapter 10 which titled Rizal's Tour of Europe with Viola in 1887. The following are the objectives of this report. Number 1, to know where the tour started. Number 2, to know those places in Europe that Rizal and Viola had visited. Number 3, to know what or where is the happiest moment of the tour. And the last is to know who are those people that Rizal and Viola had met during the tour. So the tour began at dawn of May 11, 1887. Rizal and Viola, two brown-skinned doctors on a roaming spree, left Berlin by train. It was mentioned that it was an ideal season for travel. Spring was in the air, and all over Europe the flowers were blooming, the meadows were turning green, and the villages were humming with activity. And according to Viola, the luggage of Rizal included all the letters he had received from his family and friends. And their first destination was in Dresden, one of the best cities in Germany. So when they arrived in Dresden, Rizal and Viola tarried for some time in Dresden. Their visit coincided with this regional floral exposition. So it happened that their visit in Dresden was occurred during the same time that there is a floral exposition there. So Rizal, who was interested in botany, studied the numerous plant varieties of extraordinary beauty and size. Afterwards, they also visited Dr. Adolf B. Mayer, who was overjoyed to see them in the Museum of Art, and Rizal was very impressed in the Prometheus bound and recalled that he saw the same presentation in the art gallery in Paris. And then afterwards, they moved forward to stroll at the scene of the floral exposition where they met Dr. Jogor. Upon hearing of their plan, according to Dr. Jogor, of their visiting Lake Meritz in order to see Blumenried for the first time, Dr. Jogor advised them to wire Blumentritt of their coming because the old professor was of a nervous disposition. So, Dr. Jogor advised Rizal and Viola that they warn Blumentritt that they will visit him in order to Blumentritt to feel shocked and surprised for their arrival. And so, as per the advice of Dr. Jogor, Viola and Rizal sent a wire or warning to Blumentritt that they will visit him. So on their first meeting with Blumentritt at 1:30 a.m. of May 13, 1887, the train with Rizal and Viola on board arrived at the railroad station of Lake Meritz, Bohemia. Professor Blumentritt, who received their wire, was at the station. He was carrying a pencil sketch of Rizal so that he could identify his Filipino friend. And he warmly received Rizal and Viola. Rizal and Blumentritt, who came to know each other by correspondence, met in person. Both greeted each other in fluent German, and Blumentritt was a kind-hearted old Australian professor, and upon seeing talented Rizal for the first time, he immediately took him into his heart, loving him as his son. Afterwards, Professor Blumentritt helped Rizal and Viola get a room at a hotel, after which he brought them to his home and introduced them to his wife and his family. The two Filipino tourists spent many pleasant hours at the home of their kind host. They stayed in Lake Meritz from May 13 to May 17, 1887. Rizal had the beautiful memories of his visit to Lake Meritz. He enjoyed the warm hospitality of Blumentritt family. The professor's wife, Rosa, was a good cook, and she prepared special Austrian dishes which Rizal liked very much. His children were Dolores, called Dora, of Ordurita by Rizal, Conrad, and Fritz. On May 16 at 9:45 a.m., Rizal and Viola left Lake Maris by train. But Rizal carried unto his grave the beautiful memories of his visit to Lake Maris. It's a letter to Blumentritt written in Vienna on May 24, 1887. Rizal expressed his and Viola's concerns for the illness of Dora, the professor's little daughter. Their next destination was in Prague. After Lake Maris, Rizal and Viola visited the historic place of Prague, and they carried letters of recommendation from Blumentritt to Dr. Wilcom, the professor of natural history in the University of Prague. The good professor and his charming wife and daughters welcomed them and showed them the city's historic spots. Of Copernicus, the famous astronomer, the Museum of Natural History, the bacteriological laboratories, the famous cave where San Juan, the Catholic saint, was imprisoned, and the bridge from which this saint was hurled into the river. After they said goodbye to Professor Wilcom and his family, the two tourists, Rizal and Viola, went to Bran. But according to Viola, nothing of importance happened in this city. On May 20, Rizal and Viola arrived in the beautiful place of Vienna, the capital of Austria-Hungary, famous in song and story. This city fascinated Rizal because of its beautiful buildings, religious images, haunting waltzes, and majestic charm. On May 25, Rizal and Viola left Vienna on a riverboat to see the beautiful sight of the Danube River. Rizal observed keenly the river sights, the barges loaded with products, the flowers and plants growing along the river banks, the boats with family living on them, and the quaint villages on the riverside. He particularly noticed that the passengers on the riverboat were using paper napkins during the meals, which was novelty to him. So his fellow passenger Viola commented that the paper napkins were more hygienic and economical than the cloth napkins. From Linz to rainfall, the cascade of Rhine, the river voyage ended in Linz. They traveled overland to Salzburg, and from there to Munich, where they sojourned for a short time to savor the famous Munich beer, reputed to be the best in Germany. From Munich, they went to Nuremberg, one of the oldest cities of Germany, and among the sights which they saw is the horrible torture machines. So Rizal examined carefully these torture machines, and he and Viola were impressed. After Munich, they visited Ulm, the cathedral of the city, and was the largest and tallest in all Germany. Viola related that he and Rizal climbed its many hundred steps. He related twice on the way to the tower and felt dizzy from the strain upon reaching the top. Rizal, on the other hand, ascended without resting and was not tired when he reached the top. Crossing the frontier to Switzerland from rainfall, they crossed the frontier to Schaffhausen, Switzerland. They stayed in this city from June 2 to 3, 1887, and they continued their tour to Basel, Bern, and Lausanne. After sightseeing in Lausanne, Rizal and Viola left on a little boat crossing the foggy Leman Lake to Geneva. This Swiss city is one of the most beautiful cities in Europe, visited by world tourists every year. The people of Geneva were linguists speaking French, German, and Italian. Rizal conversed with them in these three languages. Aside from visiting the tourist spots, Rizal and Viola went boating on the lake. And in this aquatic excursion, Rizal showed his rowing prowess, which he acquired during his boyhood days by the shore of Laguna de Bay. On June 1887, Rizal treated Viola to a blowout. It was his 26th birthday. According to Filipino custom, he gave a nice meal to celebrate his natal day. Rizal and Viola spent 15 delightful days in Geneva, and on June 23, they parted ways. Viola returned to Barcelona, while Rizal continued the tour to Italy. Rizal in Italy. From Geneva, Rizal went to Italy. He visited Turin, Milan, Venice, and Florence. On June 27, 1887, he reached Rome, the Eternal City, and also called the City of the Caesars. Rizal was thrilled by the sights and memories of the Eternal City, describing to Blumentritt the grandeur that was Rome. He wrote on June 27, 1887. On June 29, the feast day of St. Peter and St. Paul, Rizal visited for the first time the Vatican. And after a week of wonderful sojourn in Rome, he prepared to return to the Philippines and had already written to his father that he was coming home.